Sometimes you just have to pick up hitchhikers. Hello, and welcome to Best Motorcycle Roads. I'm Tom.
And I'm Todd. We have over 30 years of motorcycling experience and 15 years of planning and riding motorcycle trips. We're here to share with you everything we've learned over those years.
Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is simple. Make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. We'll dive into technology, planning, packing, the routes, and other tips and everything in between.
From essential prep to unforgettable routes, we've got you covered.
Before we kickstart today's journey, we ask you to sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop with the latest rides, tips, and stories. We promise no spam, only the essentials to enhance your motorcycle adventures. Join the BMR crew today. We'll put a link in the show notes. This segment about motorcycle gear reviews and tips we call the Toolkit. Today, I think we should talk about seats, Todd.
Yeah, let's talk about seats.
Pretty much, outside of Harleys, I think Harleys will have a decent stock seat. Everything else in the world that I've ever had, stock seats, are just horrible. They always say it's made for a 5'7", 125-pound man who, that was probably second grade for me. So seats. I mean, you can spend about as much as you want to on a seat. But I would say that there's kind of you got your stock seat. I'd say you got your mid-level seat, maybe your mid-high, and then you got your premium. And there's a big difference between them.
There's a huge difference. I know that on every bike I've had, up until right now, actually, I've always replaced the seat. Now, I'm currently riding a 2002 Goldwing, and the seat for the first probably 12 years was fine, but now it's kind of broken down a little bit. I definitely need a new seat, but I might just get a different bike before I do that. But anyway,
you will get a different seat then.
Well, I would get a different seat. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, I think it's time that I replace mine. I've gone to putting a bubble pad on it.
Airhawk.
The Airhawk, and that works pretty well. It's put a couple more years of life into it, but it's
so
worth
if
it
you
to
think
have a
about
nice wide flat seat, like a couch. It works well. Yeah.
I think the differences are, so you have stock seat and then usually like an Airhawk, which is like an air pad that you could, a kind of medium.
Yeah.
There's some that have water in them that are similar to an Airhawk. And then kind of beads and like sheepskins, that's your kind of second tier. And then you get into that replacement seat. Mustang, Saddlemen are two of the kind of mid-tier. Great advancement from what you're...
I've used the Mustang before as well.
Great seat. Usually gives you just a little bit more back in the tailbone section. And then it doesn't usually have a backrest, but it has you kind of bump up to that back, and it's a pseudo backrest, I guess I would call it.
Yeah.
Saddlemen, very similar seat. And then things there's a premium seat. That's what's on the bike that I have. I'm riding a 22 Goldwing. That's an ultimate seat. So now we're talking about something it's not completely custom, but it's really, really good. Yeah. Outside edges of those thighs are what really start to break down. I think what I noticed is longer ride, your middle of your bottom starts hurting because you're kind of flexing over that seat. Your legs are drooping down. So when you get in the ultimate seat, you're probably talking about a $700 seat, maybe $1,000. And then you can go full on crazy. I mean, not crazy, they're great. I mean, you're talking about custom, Russell Daylong. There's a couple other good ones. We can put those in the show notes. But now you're talking about you send in your stock seat, you take pictures of you on the bike, they customize it just for you. And man, I've had not one made for me, but a Russell Daylong game changer, literally day long riding seats.
Yeah.
I mean, seats are so important to the whole thing.
One thing that's really helped me too that I added to my bike that it didn't come with is I added a backrest.
Yes.
They're not too bad to install yourself if you're a little bit handy and you have some tools. Especially if you're going to go on a lot of long rides. 400, 500, 600 day or mile days.
Jeez, that's like 2 years.
But just having, especially in the middle of your back, that lower, it's like a lumbar support right there, and boy, those make it nice. And I know there's people that they say they don't like them because they feel like they can't swing their leg over their seat, get out like a normal.
Most of them will fold down.
But they fold down.
Yeah,
right?
most of them fold flat.
Yeah, and that's been a game changer.
Well, and most of those will adjust, so you can get a little more or a little less. So even in the middle of the day, if you're getting a little more, you can get a little more or get
push
a
it
little less.
Forward. Yeah,
that's nice too.
Yeah,
and then don't forget if you're riding two up a lot, like a lot of these will sell you just the driver's seat, but you can also get a passenger seat that's helpful. And then if you're getting that far, then also not all bikes have passenger armrests or they won't have deluxe, and that's nice for when the passenger's riding for a long time. They're in a tight spot too. So seats are great. If you're just trying your first one, maybe try one of the Airhawks. But I think it won't take long and you want to get kind of a full-on seat. Tons of research can be done here. Tons of opinions. I'm sure you'll hear it all when you do the research.
RideWise is the section we focus on planning and safety tips. And I want to talk about the importance of being open to new experiences and people during your road trips. When you're out on a motorcycle ride with a group of friends, a group of strangers, try something new. Try some foods that you haven't tried. Go zip lining if you're afraid of heights. Walk on a swinging bridge. One of those rope bridges. Ride a mountain slide coaster. Go listen to some live music. Play some new games. Those experiences are just priceless, and I think. The more you can do like that, the more fun you're going to have, the more camaraderie you're going to build.
Absolutely.
And, in talking to people along the way, I know when we stop to fill up with fuel, Tom, you can just guarantee that Tom is going to break into a conversation with the next person that walks out of the convenience store. He's going to, how you doing? And
oh, boy.
He just gets these conversations going with people, and they know you're out from out of town, and they sometimes just want to tell you about their town. That, hey, you should go eat at this place. You should go take a look at this park. We've got some great overlooks. I know you always ask them about, if you see them fueling and they're like, what about their car? If it's an interesting car, what year is that? And sometimes they're pulling trailers. What kind of boat is that? Where'd you get that tractor you're pulling? And you have just really been able to pull a lot of great information out of people, and it's just really enhanced the trip. And I would say just don't be shy. It's pretty easy to, and people are willing to talk to you. I think most of the time it's a whole lot of fun.
People like to talk about themselves, right? So
what the heck? Yeah,
ask good questions.
And I just want to say have respect for people. If they don't want to talk, that's fine too. But by talking to people, you get a feel for different cultures, and you can make a great impression on them. They can make a great impression on you. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about travel, especially traveling with you, because you always try to make the wait staff when we stop at restaurants laugh, by all your antics.
By ordering normal things that they never have.
Well, that's one thing.
It never ever ceases.
I don't know how you have the ability to do that, but like Tom will order and they don't have that. They're out of that. They're out of this. And
it's your special. It's your specialty.
You have a knack for that.
Oh my gosh. The number of times, sometime, it always happens every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
The next segment is what we call the mile marker. It's our story segment. Yeah, do you want to talk about Dave?
Well, so I have a friend that lives up in northern Minnesota, and we were going to ride through Minnesota, and I kind of wanted to stop and see him. I hadn't seen him in quite a few years, and told him we were coming on our way, and wherever we stopped at a hotel or whatever for the night, and he came to pick us up to take us out for dinner, and lo and behold, he pulls up in this 1990s VW camper van that was in just fantastic shape. And as it turns out, you're a huge VW fan. Your dad had been a VW repair guy for forever. And, I don't know how many dozens of VWs you've owned. So all of a sudden, you didn't even know him, and you broke into this conversation about VWs, and it was just a great talking point. It was a way to it was get
fun
to know somebody.
It was so fun just to go. He took us out to eat to a place he liked, and that was cool too.
Yeah, that was great.
Funny thing. We were in Wisconsin, I think, was it Oshkosh?
Oshkosh, yeah.
Yeah. And you guys wanted to go see Hairball.
We did.
So everyone went to Hairball, and I bowed out early.
You were there to start with.
Well, there's barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, I'm going to take off. I grabbed a Uber home, and then you guys later on, after you were done having a good time.
Yeah,
you,
after an hour and a half or so, we went and found an Uber too.
Right.
And we were in the Uber riding home, and we said which hotel we were going to, and she said, "Oh, I took a guy over there earlier." Sure enough, we're in the same Uber that you were, the same person driving. So that was
should have warned her.
That was a fun conversation too. She talked all about you.
Hey, we were having a good time. So I think one of the most memorable restaurants that I can think of is a place that we were in St. Charles, Missouri.
Oh yeah,
Salvatore's Italian Grill.
yeah.
From the start of the night to the end of the night was great. I think it was the first time we said, "Hey, let's grab an Uber. Then we don't have to drive the bikes. It'll be good. We can have a beer or whatever."
Yeah.
So we did that. Then we end up there with a great waitress, and then the owner comes in. He's like, "I'm making my own limoncellos, right? Like we should all have those."
Oh, we got to back up. You're getting too far ahead.
Jeez.
So this was another one of those times. I remember this distinctly. You ordered something, and she left. Came back 5 minutes later. We don't have that anymore. Okay, well then you ordered this. She left, came back. I'm sorry, we don't have that either. And I think you went through like 3 dishes.
It was
and you're
bad.
like, just bring me whatever you have
What
tonight.
do you have anything?
So I kind of felt like the owner felt bad about the whole thing. So go ahead. He came
So
on.
then,
He offered.
homemade limoncellos.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And so then, we have a good time. We're having fun with everyone. Everything's going well.
Yeah.
And then
You guys
hey,
are always giving the wait staff a hard time in fun. I mean, they
Well, yeah,
they were
totally.
laughing right along with us.
But then, it's like, oh, let's get an Uber home.
And there were no Ubers.
They were done.
They were
for the
done
night.
for the night.
It's not like it's 2 a.m. This was like 9,
Yeah.
8.
We couldn't find an Uber. I don't think Lyft was around then.
No.
But yeah, there was no rides home. There was no taxis in town. So
So then,
go ahead.
our waitress is like, well, you can take my vehicle. Like, not take it, but someone will give you a ride.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh. I've been around Ford Windstars before, but this may have been the most broken down Ford Windstar. I think we did stop and get oil for the vehicle.
We did. We stopped
Yeah.
and got a quart of oil.
Because it was
was
not
rough.
well.
It was rough. I think
Yeah.
we could see the ground through the floorboards, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But the nice thing was that I remember Chris.
Right.
Chris was carrying a wad of money in his hand, and not only at the restaurant gave this huge tip,
Yeah.
which she cried. I remember it made her day.
Yeah.
But then when we rode in,
I thought it was my jokes.
the crying part.
Yeah.
But then when we rode in this van that obviously needed a lot of work, then everybody just threw in a bunch of money and tipped her. We didn't have any other way to get home, so it was very nice for her to
Yeah, we were in
offer
trouble.
offer her van up.
That was cool. So if you're ever if you ever find yourself in St. Charles, Missouri, look up Salvatore's Italian Grill. I actually re-went and looked at it before we here. I guess they have live bands and everything there all the time.
Oh,
but
really?
They didn't have it that night.
Not that night. Yeah.
No, but definitely look it up. It's a great place. We'll put a link to that Facebook page in our show notes too. So yeah, then you and I took a trip out kind of to the southeast, and we ended up in North Carolina where a friend of mine, Mike, is at. Not the Mike we ride bikes with, but a guy I used to work with in a previous job. And he was always talking the whole time we were there. He's like, I'm buying a tiny house. I'm living off the grid. I'm like, whatever, Mike. Mike is also the guy that one time was sleeping in the warehouse racks with a sleeping bag. But Mike, you did it. So anyway,
That's a tiny house.
so he's accustomed to small spaces, is what I'm trying to say. But so we went down, and I don't remember. I have it saved on my maps. I don't remember what town it was by. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere. But Mike had bought he bought some property, and it had an old tobacco shed on it. That he was in the process while we were there, was turning into a house. Wow. And he was trying to go off grid, and he had solar and this gigantic pond. It was cool.
It was cool. And I remember when we got there, to get down to where his house, you could see the house and you could see the pond, but the road was like rocks and boulders, and it was steep in one area. And we've got these Goldwings. Well, I had a Goldwing.
I was borrowing Brad's.
Oh, that's right. You were on a Goldwing. And we're like, there's no way. I mean, we're going to bottom out. We're going to wreck our bikes or crash going down this hill. And
I'm on a borrowed bike, and I remember coming in hot and I hit the grass. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
But
I do. Yeah.
I ended up like going.
Yeah.
The roads are different down there.
Yeah.
And so, luckily, thank God I didn't put the bike down right there. But
Yeah. So we stopped.
we stopped at the top and
Yeah.
walked
It just
in.
walked to his
Yeah,
house at that
absolutely.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. So what a beautiful, cool place, though. I mean, my kind of first experience really was someone that I knew with a tiny home, and what a cool place. I mean, they were living in the van. Remember?
Oh yeah.
They
Yeah.
lived in a van for a year.
Yeah.
So what a cool experience, though.
But he was doing things with solar
Oh, yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, and really making that tobacco drying shed into a
It was cool.
livable house.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
really
neat.
cool. Kind of to the teaser here, picking up hitchhikers. I just remember Canadian Randy. Randy, we met on the side of the road in Casey, Illinois. My ex-brother-in-law and I were doing an iron butt, our 1,000 miles in 24 hours. And we were 20 hours in, so we had plenty of time. And we were just a mile away from the place we had to check in. So there was a guy pushing his bike down the side of the road, and he broke his chain. And turns out that Randy lives in Canada. He's a cool guy. I've since kept up with Randy, but it's just like these are the stories I love because it's like, oh, here's a guy that's broken down. We ended up getting a hold of him, figuring out what bike he had, and my brother-in-law actually ran to the local store. We called, they had a chain, went and got it for him, brought it back, and he was able to repair his bike in the parking lot of the hotel. So it's just another one of those cool things when you see people,
Yeah.
you want to stop and help them out. I don't know. It's cool. And, now I follow this guy on Facebook, chat with him. That guy rides all over the place. Randy, you know who you are. So, yeah. So that was pretty cool. It's just something I always remember. It was in spring. And I just remember him pushing that bike. He was running it down the road, just trying to get to where everyone was at, where this rally was at. So it was cool.
Yeah. And one of my all-time favorite stories has to be in Nashville. We took a trip down to Nashville.
Memphis?
Oh, it was Memphis. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay.
It was Memphis. Went down to Memphis, and we had always heard about the rendezvous for barbecue. So we
Best barbecue in Tennessee.
Memphis, so we need to get to the rendezvous. Well, the rendezvous, for those who don't know, it's the only way to enter it is in an alley. It's down in an alley, so
Right.
you're walking down a small alley. What we didn't realize at the time is rendezvous is not open on Mondays.
One day it's not open.
Here we are. We were wearing matching T-shirts that day because it was our Memphis,
Memphis Day or whatever.
Memphis Day, whatever, on
Yeah.
our T-shirts. And we're walking down this alley, and we walked over to the rendezvous, and it was closed. So we turned around and started walking back, and here comes this guy down the alley, and he said, "How y'all doing?" And he said, like, you want the best barbecue in Memphis when rendezvous is closed? And we said, sure. And so he said, follow me. And he takes us continuing down that alley. He didn't know us. We didn't know
Right.
him. And pretty soon he comes around the side of this bank. It was deserted.
Closed bank, yeah.
It was a closed bank. And we go in through kind of a side door. And he doesn't turn the lights on, and you can just tell.
I don't know that they worked.
I mean, it looked like you were walking into a haunted building because there was cobwebs and there was nothing in there. The old bank teller stations
Right.
were in there. And he's going, follow me. And now we're getting a little nervous because who is this guy? What does he want? And he starts heading down this set of steps down into the basement. And one of the guys in our group was like, guys, I'm going to stay up here. He said, if you need me, just yell. Start yelling. So he stayed up at the top of the stairs. And this guy takes us in, and he opens the vault door. And it's one of these old vaults.
Yeah,
probably
the big old
couple feet thick. And we start to walk in, and he flips the lights on. And this was his private office. And the walls were lined with photos of this guy who we don't even know who he is yet. And every blues artist, I think, that's ever been in the Memphis area. It was amazing.
It was amazing.
And he says, my name is Tommy Peters, and I'm the president and CEO of
BB
King's
Blues and Barbecue.
Blues and Barbecue. And he hands us his card, and not only does he hand us his card, but he gives us coupons or certificates for dinners and drinks and desserts at his place, and he said, "Dinner's on me tonight." And what a nice guy he was. I mean, he didn't have to do that for us. He didn't know who we were, and what an experience that was. And just looking through all those,
it was amazing.
Those photos, and Junior Wells and BB King, and you name it. He was on the wall, standing next to him. That was cool.
Yeah, and again, I mean, just happenstance.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have easily said, get out of my way, guy.
Right.
But what we talk about is just being nice, being open, smiling, and seeing what happens. You know?
And I think, were you wearing a hat that day? Like one of your?
I was a high Iowa hat, but it was like a bucket.
That's right. Yeah.
Bucket hat.
Yeah. And it's funny when you wear your Hawkeye hat all around.
Yeah.
You always get someone that will yell "Go Hawks" at you. So that's always fun too.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, Tommy passed.
Tommy
right?
passed away. Actually, during pandemic, I read that he had COVID in 2021. But and the funny thing was, he told us, who he was and that, and then of course after we got home from the trip, then I had to look him up, and wow, he was a big. I mean, he was well known, very well known, and it wasn't just that place that he had. So
it was cool.
It was really neat.
Yeah, right on. The podcast can be found on bestmotorcycleroads.com/podcast. All the information you need will be there, but you can subscribe on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Pocket Casts, and YouTube.
This is the interactive segment. We will be looking for input from you. We want you to send us your questions and suggestions for roads, topics, and anything else you have on your mind. Today's roadside Q&A comes from Olivia. And Olivia asks, what software do you use for planning trips? And Tom, we've tried a bunch, but do you want to kind of talk about, since you're kind of our trip planner, so you probably have the most experience with this.
So basically what I would say first, and if you ask for opinions on this, you'll get always every time, you don't need anything but maps.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about this in previous episodes, but I like to plan the route ahead of time. Like I like to get it done, like to have it in the GPS so I don't have to think as much when we go. That's my thing. But so, yes, you actually can use maps, and you can bring the maps too, and trust me.
You're talking about paper maps, right?
Paper maps or, laminated. But they stink. They're hard to read. You're looking down, and you need to go forward. So, but some other suggestions that we have read about online is there's another one called Frknot. I checked it out. It's kind of cool. I'm not sure if anyone's used it, but you can actually put in start date or start location, end location. Is it a round trip? Put your dates in. It'll actually it'll kind of plan it for you.
For motorcycles?
Car, motorcycle,
nice.
It's cool. So I'd suggest giving that a shot. Check it out. See what you think. Give us some comments. But also then another good one, a lot of people use the Garmin Basecamp. And the reason why I use Garmin Basecamp is it's their software. It's a little clunky to use, but it really imports well into Garmin. Garmin to Garmin, and it works well. So like if you're just a Garmin, it's a little bit hard to get the learning curve, but once you learn it, it isn't too bad. And then one of the best ones is it's called the Harley Ride Planner. I think it's maps.harleydavidson.com. There's so many predefined rides in this thing. It's just amazing. I would highly recommend going out and checking that out. Search for anything you're searching for, and someone has built a ride around it. So yeah, check that out. Even if you don't, I don't know that you're really planning routes on there, but you can find routes and find waypoints on there. And then my go-to is really just Google Maps, and we'll probably do an in-depth thing on Google Maps and how to really get it working better for you. But basically for Google Maps is what gets people hung up the most is you can get that map looking right, but when you move that map onto your phone, you move that map onto a Garmin, the waypoints, they will change, And then when you're doing it on your phone, the super tip that we found is the first place you want to put is your location. Literally write in your location, because it will always be where you are at that moment in time and take you to that first step. So that was kind of the hack that we found. And the other hack I would just say is like once you get all those waypoints put in, I just save the URL, put it in email, and that seems to be the best thing. It's not perfect by no match, but it's very flexible, very easy to tweak and change. So
and I know that one thing you always do when you're looking at maps, especially when we're out of state, you zoom in a lot in the Earth view, and just to make sure you haven't, because you always check, you always pick 2-lane roads or small roads, And then you always zoom in to make sure we're not turning onto a gravel road.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I mean, that's the one thing about Google Maps is it will take you on gravel roads.
Yeah.
It'll take you on I've had it want to take me on what do they call those? The national park, like a mining road.
yeah.
Like it'll take you on weird roads that you probably shouldn't be on in a car, let alone a bike.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think Google Maps is pretty good too. It's good. You know, you kind of bring it all together and hope that it turns out, and you learn more as you go. And,
Yeah, there's some tricks to it too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, well, we've reached the last mile. It's kind of our way to close each episode with our reflections. Todd, what's your reflection for today?
Yeah, you never know who you're going to meet on your next trip. You're going to meet someone interesting, someone that can tell you a secret place to eat or a secret place to visit. So I would say smile at people, talk to them, say hi, tell them where you're from, what are you looking for, and you never know what you might find.
Yeah, and for me, it's be nice, smile, listen to what people have to say. Like, just ask a silly question, like, "What you doing today?" You know, like I don't know. It doesn't matter. People like to talk, and you know, if you're nice, smile at them. They're usually nice, and if they're not, someone else behind them is.
Yeah, that's right.
So, the next episode will be another route highlight. Our 2019 trip to North Carolina to visit the Andy Griffith Museum. If this episode revved up your day, don't just keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share it with your crew. We're all about the thrill of the ride and the bond it creates.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads. The stories ride forever. Take care.